Hey songwriters, welcome back to another edition of At Home Songwriting. Today I had a great opportunity to talk to Burt Byler. Burt is a singer, songwriter, and a YouTuber that is very focused on the Americana genre. His YouTube channel promotes songwriters and musicians in the Americana genre, and he gets to share his love for that genre, but he's also a singer and a songwriter himself. So in our conversation, we get to talk about his musical history, and we talk a lot about what songwriting success looks like. And we hit on something that a lot of us experience, and that's feeling like a failure because we're not making money with our music. So if you're not making money with your music, listen to this conversation and see if it helps you really feel more at ease with kind of where you're at with your music. So I'm super excited to jump in and talk to Burt. So let's go. Well, welcome to the channel, Burt Byler. Burt, welcome to At Home Songwriting.
Man, I don't know why you decided to ask me to come and talk about songwriting, but man, it's great to be here. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, no, I, was looking online for like different genres of songwriters and people that are out there, really just loving music, and your YouTube channel came up, and I saw that you not only make your own music, but you also are a big like a promoter of Americana and all of that as well. So I thought, wow, this would be a cool person to have on, because I know a lot of the people that follow At Home Songwriting work within the Americana genre, and I just thought we could have a good music songwriting conversation.
Yeah, I learned from my Meemaw that I'm way better at talking about other people's music than I am playing it. And so I found this like weird lane that I personally enjoy, where I get to love and lift up other musicians, and I get to with this little platform that I have, I get to give them some bumps on things, and then I can just kind of do my music how I want, and that not be like the main thing, because
Cool.
we all know how hard it is these days to do it as a songwriter. And so it helps me like keep music in a really good place for me, to where it's just for enjoyment. Nobody is listening, nobody is caring, and I get to just make music with my friends, and that's where I enjoy. That's where I like for music to be.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I started At Home Songwriting, because there's a lot of people out there promoting, how to get published and how to, become like this big songwriter. And for me, it's more of a professional hobby, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
where it's like it's part of my life, and I would do it no matter what, but it's not my profession where I make the most money, right? So I think there's a lot of people out there like that there needs to be an outlet where, how do you learn how to write songs, and where do you find good music, and how do we connect with other creative people, and I just thought what you're doing is very creative for sure.
Man, this is a soapbox that I will die on, is that we as songwriters, and as mostly, most of us are hobbyist musicians. Most of us are not doing this for a living. We're playing with our friends at the local bar. We're playing around town, or like maybe we're doing some regional touring. But most of the people that I know aren't doing this full time. And even the ones that are doing it full time, they're not killing it. Like, it's not just some huge money making thing. And so I realized this past year is that we are inundated with marketing gurus. We're inundated with huge companies that try to sell us on the only lane for music is to be a professional. Like, the goal is to be a pro and to do this full time. And I don't know where we lost our way to where music stopped being a hobby, but for so many people, it's just like, you're either a really successful songwriter and musician, or you're a loser. And I'm trying to preach the gospel of, man, music is like the best hobby. Music is, I get to go to the best like dive venues in Mississippi. I get to eat and drink for free. Sometimes I get to make a little money, and I get to hang out with my friends and do something that I love. You don't get that when you go play basketball with your friends. Like,
That's true.
You don't
That's
get to
true.
drink and eat for free when you like go to the gym or whatever healthy people do. Like I, I I don't know where we lost our way, and I'm preaching it myself when I'm reminding myself like what music is to me and where I decide it gets to be. And then if anything else happens on top of that, then like so be it, and
Yeah.
we'll cross that bridge when we do. But we have got to get back to where we enjoy doing it again, and that
Yeah.
to be like it.
No, I fully agree with you because I talk to a lot of other musician friends and songwriters, and some of the things that they say is the instant you show somebody something that's not a musician, here's the song I wrote, and they're like, wow, that's really good. The first thing they say is you should sell it, or
Yeah.
you should do that. You should go into music, like you just go apply for a music job,
Yeah.
or like a songwriter job.
Or the whole like go be on The Voice. How many times have we sung or somebody heard us and their first things to say you should go be on this show. They'll help you make it. And
Yeah.
I mean we're bombarded from people who are trying to make money off us, people who think we're a failure if we're not doing this full time. And it's a really hard place for us to be happy and to be a failure at music. And I will like proudly stand here and tell you that I am a failure at music. I have 14 monthly listeners on Spotify. Like I
Yeah.
nobody other than like the few people in my community that are being kind enough to listen to my music. Nobody's listening to my music. But recently I've been more happy about making music than I've ever been in my life. And because I finally feel like I've found the lane where I enjoy doing it again without all of like the extra pressure that we put on ourselves.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question is, do you feel like that pressure has affected you creatively? Because I feel like it does for me. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I get in my head like there's this fictitious audience that wants something from me. And I think I have 5 listeners on Spotify a month. So you're you're like big time compared to me. So
Massive. Yeah. I mean,
you're
the
huge.
royalties that I'm making is just out of this world.
Yeah.
Does it affect me? Absolutely. And you as a YouTuber know all about it. In YouTube, you can look at any analytic that you've ever imagined in your life. There's just like this plethora of data and information that you can find out about what you're creating. Like we don't really get
Yep.
that. I don't think, not that I know of, with like Spotify and stuff. You don't know when people stop listening to a song, or you don't know a lot of data or analytics about it. But as a YouTuber, I've learned that, man, that stuff is helpful to a point.
Mhm.
I think especially when you're starting out on YouTube, it is good to look at data and to figure out what people like and what people don't like, and maybe how you can get better. But the thing about music is like it it's just a tale as old as time whether a song is good or not. And it doesn't take
Yep.
some genius data or analytical person to listen to a song and be like, that's a great song. But for
Yep.
me, uh, whenever I stopped doing the type of music that I used to do, um, the finance part of it was a huge deal because I went from doing music in a way that earned a lot of money to like writing songs that nobody listened to. And so to me, it was like, I've got to feed my family. I've got to figure out a way to make ends meet doing this thing. And so money has always been my biggest foe when it comes to songwriting, to where
Mm.
it's not just wanting to be appreciated by people. It's, I feel like I'm a failure if I'm not making money doing this thing. And that's
Yeah.
like the one huge pressure that's been on my shoulders, to where just recently, financially, my wife and I are finally doing a lot better. And I don't have that same financial burden that I used to. And so I can feel like that. Um,
So were there times then in your career, in your life, where you were doing music full time and that was what was paying all the bills, or has it ever?
Jesus was paying the bills. Thank you,
Okay.
Jesus. I used to play in churches and I would lead worship and I would travel around and do a lot of church stuff. And man,
Yeah.
Jesus pays real good. Let me just tell you, you want the best gig in town? Go play 4 songs on a Sunday morning at a Baptist church. They will pay you 10 times more what any bar is paying in town. And I, my pretty
And
much
you've
my whole young, like, playing music, I was making good money. Like, it's a
cool.
lot of money if you're a singer at a church, like if you do well. And
Cool.
so that transition from that to like not making a dime really affected how I viewed songwriting. It really affected uh my goals for making music, I guess.
So when did you start writing songs? Like what has songwriting played, or what role has that played in your life?
It's so I was 15 when I first got a guitar and I started making music. I'm telling you, from day one, it's been a business for me. Like, I
Mm.
learned that very early on, even at 15, I could travel around to youth groups and they'd pay me a couple $100 and I could sell CDs if I had my own CDs, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been doing it. I've probably made 10 records in my life. Um, and for me, it was always this financial need to like to prove it was, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I always just associated success to whether I was making any money doing it. And I'm gonna be honest, I think a lot of that has to do with growing up in the church. There's a lot of money getting thrown around in churches.
Mm,
Um, and especially as a musician, if you're good, then you get paid more money. And so
sure.
from like very early, I learned that music and money with the church was like very hand in hand. And I learned that the bigger bands, when they came to church, they would make $5,000 to come play. And so for me, it's just always been really hard to disconnect money with music.
So it sounds like you've gotten closer to that goal of disconnecting. Do you find more satisfaction in just writing to write, do you think?
I think, oh, absolutely. Like, it's not even because there's no pressure. Like, and that's one
Yeah.
great thing about being a failure is there's no like nobody cares if it sucks, right?
Yeah.
Um, but uh, the other thing is, I think I will always want it to be the best as possible, and it's just
Yeah.
really hard to figure out how to quantify what is the best possible. Because when you've been
Sure.
making music for 20 years, like, it's easy for me to write a song, not necessarily a great song. It's easy for me to record it. It's easy. I've just done the whole process enough to where that part's not hard anymore. What I'm trying to figure out is, how do I quantify what is good to me? And if you have any answers, I'm all ears. But for me, like, I still, after writing for over 20 years, the only way that I know if something's good is if it makes me feel something. When
Yeah.
you're writing and you tear up, or you're just smiling big because you're really proud of it. And so at the stage I'm at in life, my big question is like, how do you define what you think is good? And most of the time it's just a feeling. Most of the
Yeah.
time it's just that butterfly in your stomach kind of thing, to where you're like, okay, this is good. And I don't know any other way to decide what's good or not. Like, that's the only barometer that I have.
Well, I think that's true because all of us are moved by different things, right? And of course there are hit songs that touch millions of people, and then the machine works. And I mean, we could talk all day about how some of the machine is kind of like not fair and money drives everything, but
Yeah.
um it's funny because when I do workshops, I will play certain songs that I'm really moved by and I'm just super excited about it. And depending on the audience, they're just like, whatever, it's okay. And it's
Yeah.
like, it'll be the number one song on country radio, right? So it's
Yeah.
like somebody likes it, but this little group doesn't like it. So I think for me, when I'm teaching songwriting, I try to tell people that you really have to look at what moves you and like what is the style and who are the writers that like really make you feel something, because I think it's different for all of us, you
Hmm.
know?
Well, music is so segmented these days to where I don't know about y'all, but for me, I really only listen to a couple of styles of music. Like
Yeah.
it does not get as broad as it used to, but now it's so easy to find your favorite kind of music and then to find 50 different people doing that same thing. And so like
Yep.
my whole channel is based on Americana music, and you could play a hit country song to my audience and they will hate the whole thing because just the language of it and what the story is probably about isn't going to resonate with my people. My people want to hear about like a meth head that's that's like throwing all his money away because his girlfriend stole his money. Like they want like these really intense, hardcore kind of stories.
Yeah.
Um, and so just if your story doesn't resonate with somebody, you know, that there's just not, even if they like that kind of music. And I think Americana music is so story driven in general, because normally it's like three chords and the truth. So they're not even doing anything super interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but I think we're just so segmented, like we have our pockets of, and so my suggestion is like figure out what your pocket is and then learn from the people who are doing it the best in that pocket and then put your little spin on it.
And I definitely agree with that. And I think for myself personally, with my own songwriting, sometimes I am chasing certain trends, or I'm trying to sometimes sound like other people. And I've gotten to the point now where it's like, I just need to sound like myself.
Yeah.
And if I like it, then there's probably somebody out there that likes it as well. But I can't let it keep changing my own creativity just because I'm trying to be like someone else. But I do think imitation is a great way to learn, especially if you're new, but at some point you have to kind of just find your own thing. So do you feel like that was something you did as you were starting to write songs too? Did you have certain artists or writers, or did you kind of emulate at first, or how did you start writing?
Man, I still feel like I'm doing that.
Sure.
I don't know. Um Maybe it's because I don't have many people listening that I don't feel like I've found my thing. I think it's
Mm.
easy when you find some success for people listening to it, you feel like you've done the right thing. But when you don't have anybody really getting behind your music, it's so hard to know uh if you're doing something original or if you're doing something that's an imitation. I think it's always going to be a bit of both. Like
Right.
is it even possible to write a song these days without imitating somebody? And so my big thing is I've just kind of stopped worrying about am I imitating other people, because I am. Like I
Sure.
definitely am. And I'm just trying to write the best song for whatever song that I'm writing, and just accept that I'm probably ripping off 100 people
Oh, for sure.
for
I
all
mean,
the music.
everything's been done before,
Yeah.
basically. There's only 12 notes. Um, what I tell people is within songwriting, you have to be like 80% familiar and then like 20% original. You know, you're not going
Yeah.
to reinvent the wheel. You're probably not going to create a new genre. You could, it's possible, but most of the time you're just putting your little twist on things that have been done before, you know. And a lot of times being creative isn't so much in the song structure, it's really more about the content. Like you said, like writing a song about a meth head, that sounds super interesting. And that's not something you hear every day, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe you do. I don't know. I guess I don't know what you listen to.
I listen to a lot of just sad songs about people going through some shit, man. Most of my channel. But I guess my thing that I've learned is that I so most of the songs that really blow up in the Americana world are like either really sad songs, like heartbreaking stories for people, or that's kind of it. It's actually just that. Like that
That's
is
it.
the only thing it
Okay.
does well. And I've learned that like I didn't grow up like that. Like I didn't grow up in a bad family life. I've never been addicted to drugs or anything. And there was a time where I was like trying to be this person, or at least to write songs as this person that really didn't have anything to do with my life. And I realized that uh I was just completely not being me. And
Mm.
so now like I'm writing songs about being frustrated at work, or I'm writing songs about raising my family, or just more more things that are really true to me, like really deep, hard feelings that I feel when I get down, and to write
Yeah.
about that because I've never been the meth head on the street. I've never been
Right.
the drunk. I've never been all those things. I was probably a crazy religious person. That's one album that I need to write one day. Um, but not to say all religious people are crazy. I'm saying I was a crazy person sometimes. But yeah, my thing was trying to be something because I thought that's what that audience wanted. And I'm just trying to figure out like how do I write powerful stories and songs, either based on my life or just completely have nothing to do with it, but still like stories about people that I connect with. Because I personally don't connect with the method because I've never been there. But I
Right.
really connect with the teacher who's really pissed off because they can't pay their bills at the end of the month. Um,
Got it.
so I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure out what I guess what my powerful stories are and the things that get me really pumped, you know?
So what does your songwriting process look like when if you sit down to write a song? Like, do you have a certain way that you tend to lean, or what does that look like for you?
I have a way that I would like to lean, and I fail at leaning on on the time. I feel like mm, now this may not ring true for everybody. So there's two extremes. There's like the perfectionist. We all know a perfectionist, like my wife is a perfectionist. And then
Yeah.
there's like the half-assers. I am definitely the extreme half-asser to where I will my problems as a songwriter is I haven't put in the work to make a song great. Like I feel like so many times
Mm.
I'll have an idea, I'll kind of just get that idea out, and then, you know, because the great stories are the songs that have been written in 2 minutes and then they leave. But for someone like me, that's a really negative way of doing it because I have 100 ideas all the time. Like I'm always recording something in my phone, or I'll grab the guitar and I'll come up with a guitar part, and it's all just very half-assed stuff, and then I'll turn that into a song. But I won't really like take it song by song and try to make each part special or try to really
Mhm.
work as hard as I can. So to say all that, my new strategy is before I make another album or before I do anything else, I want to have 20 ideas and ideas of songs. It can be a verse, it can be a chorus, just a feeling and kind of a vibe of a song. And then I want to take 5 of the best ones and then actually work really hard to make them into great songs.
Yeah.
Because in the past, all I did was my first like 5 to 10 ideas were the ones that went on the record. And those are the songs we played live. And I was never super proud of those.
Hmm.
Um, but now my new plan is 20 ideas, take those 20, whittle them down to 5 or 10 or however many I decide at the moment. And then like come up with a lot of different options for each song. Like come up with different melodies for the verses and the choruses and different chord progressions, and reach out to friends and see if they got any ideas of how to make like this one song as good as possible instead of like kind of halfway making 10 songs decent,
Got it.
if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you're successful at doing that. I would say that I'm in the middle of perfection and half-assing. I'm right in the middle. Like there are some times where I just write it because I have to get it out. And then there's other times where it's almost like I build the song, where I'm thinking about every part of it. I'm focusing on the structure. I'm focusing on, what are some of the rhyme schemes, and like very intentional about like melody and things like that. And then there's other times where I'm just humming and strumming, and like the verses don't match, and like it's just but it's fun. You know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
kind of have to do it both ways, I think.
Yeah. And I think it all depends on like how, I'm a full-time teacher. And so like the time, which I have plenty of time, I have like a little guitar in my office at my school.
Cool.
I've just found that not being a detailed person and being a half-asser, like I just get to the point where I just don't care. And I just like, it's fine. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
And that's been to my advantage on YouTube, to where I feel like so many people are so scared to upload anything to YouTube. And
Yeah.
I was the one that just uploaded a ton of crap and then just kind of got better every time I did it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it has its pros and its cons. I think there's a positive side to just putting stuff out, even if it's not perfect. But I just realized that I personally, I want, I know I'm not a perfectionist, so I have no problem with finishing something. I just need to do a little bit more work uh, to be proud of the songs I write.
What do you think you're best at in songwriting?
Oof. Um, I think I'm a pretty honest, straight shooter. I don't use a lot of metaphor. I
Mhm.
personally am not just a huge fan of super uh difficult to understand stories. My favorite songs are like John Prine songs that aren't, they're great stories, but they're not just told in some super out of touch way or super intellectual. I'm a teacher, so I work in academia, and I have friends that are very academic and very intellectual that go to trivia 3 nights a week. And I love those folks. But when I tell a story, that's not how I like to tell a story. The way that they talk and the way that they think isn't really. I grew up listening to my papa fishing, telling stories of when he was a highway patrolman, and he was a master storyteller, but you wouldn't consider him like a super intellectual person, or he wasn't
Sure.
he wasn't using phrases that would impress anybody. Um, and so I would like to think that I try to be simple and honest. Uh, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you find that that's the type of music you are drawn to as well? Like when you hear stuff that really moves you, do you find that it's because I know exactly what you're talking about, because there's some people who write in a very abstract, poetic kind
Yeah,
of way, and it almost becomes more about the words instead of what's being said, if that makes sense. And
yeah,
I resonate with something that has what's behind the words more than what the words are actually saying, and it sounds like maybe that's similar for you.
yeah. It's kind of the same thing with the food that we love. Why do we love the food that we love? Is because what we've grown up with, and what we've taught our palate to like. And for me, uh, I grew up with my family telling stories in a very short, concise way, with uh, uh, a gift of putting the right amount of details in, but using a language that we all understood. And I try to do the same thing with songwriting, to where I want to sound like if me and my papa were just sitting around telling stories. I want to write a song in a way that my people in my family would get the language that I'm using. And so it's the same thing musically. Like the reason I like the kind of music I like is because how I've grown up and where and what I've been shown. And
Yeah.
so I think the more that we look back in our past, and the more we look at how we've been raised, it's a lot easier for us to figure out what kind of music we should be making. Because at the end of the day, I love my Meemaw's mac and cheese more than I do anywhere else. And
Yeah.
it's just because that's how I grew up. And I feel like music is pretty similar.
It's funny that you say that because I actually have a theory that there's a time in people's lives, and for me, I think it's between like 8 and 10. And whatever you're listening to when you're like 8 to 10, that's kind of like what sticks with you like here on out. Like I
That's
feel
why I
like there,
played that Jesus
yeah.
music all the time, man. It's just all that Jesus music 24/7 when I was 10 years old.
Yeah. So obviously, I have a lot of newer songwriters that watch this channel. What advice do you have for someone out there that might be watching and doesn't have as much experience as you? Like what's your advice to a new songwriter?
Um, define success and make it or define like or I say a lot like where your lane is with music, because here's the truth of the matter. Uh the music industry is a really small industry. Not many people are making it. It's just the truth. I mean, how many friends do you know that are incredible? Like it is a really difficult industry to break into. And so I would take out all of the making it, making a living, or like seeking appreciation from other people. And I would decide yourself, like, even if nobody ever listened to it, like what is doing it well mean? Does that
Mm,
mean playing once a year? Does that mean writing a certain amount of songs a year? And the more you can focus on what actually makes you happy, and then if other stuff happens, then cool. And then we can talk about how to make a business out of it and all of that kind of stuff, if that's what you
yeah.
want to do. But I feel like it's kind of like all these new YouTubers that make like 5 YouTube videos and then they quit because what they really wanted was uh, people to talk about how great they were, and they really wanted the recognition, but they didn't really
Yeah.
love doing the thing. And so, if you can't figure out what love doing the thing means to you, then it's always going to be hard. Like it's just going to be a big battle.
That's great advice. And I always tell people too, there's steps to, if you do want to make it a business, you have to start with the quality product first, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't worry right away about how am I getting this out there, or how do I get a publisher, or how do I get gigs. It's like first get yourself in a place where it makes sense to take that step, because it will naturally happen, I think. But you need a good song. I think it all comes down to you have to have a good song, and you have to present it in a quality way.
I mean, just look at the competition. If we're
Mm,
look at how many people are making music out there. I mean, just in like local towns, like think about how many incredible musicians are trying to get that bar gig that everybody loves or that one thing. But then imagine if like you were competing with the entire world for the attention of a few people. And the truth
yeah.
is that there's more music than there's ever been. Um, people do not listen to music as much as they used to. Uh,
Hmm.
and so to me, like if you want to make it a business, that's awesome. But you got to be really good at it. Like because you either got to be really good or be really handsome and beautiful. Because
Yes.
those are I feel like those are the two lanes. It's either you're a sex symbol or you're a great songwriter.
That is true. So how did you evolve into having a YouTube channel then? What was that evolution like?
Man, I fell in love with YouTube years ago and I just got addicted to watching videos on YouTube, learning about it. I was born in 85, and so I'm the generation where like I was in college when Facebook first came out. And so you I'm of the generation that YouTube was like brand new to us when we were, in high school and college.
Sure.
And it still is so amazing to me. how I can watch anything that I want to watch. I can learn anything that I want to learn. In the pandemic, I probably had 20 different rabbit holes that I went down. And I just, as a consumer, I love YouTube. I think it's incredible.
Yeah.
And I learned that I like making videos. I especially like making videos where I celebrate other songwriters and I celebrate people in the Americana music kind of community. And it's been such a powerful thing in my life to build a community of people similar to me who also love to love on other musicians. And it's kind of like when you go to a party on a Friday night, everybody's like passing the aux cord saying, have you heard this song? Or have you checked out this this songwriter, etc. That's kind of what my YouTube channel is. We
Cool.
talk a lot about music. We play some music sometimes, but it's more of like a community hangout where we all just kind of share why music is important to us. And man, that has been one of the best things that has ever happened to me, to have a constant group of people that are encouraging me, not just to make videos or to make music, but just to be a better person. Um,
Yeah.
I personally don't have a like a local bar that I love going to. There's not like a great small music dive bar in Jackson, Mississippi, where I live. And so I don't really have that community of close friends as much as I would like living here. And so it's been kind
Yeah.
of my extended friend group, you know.
No, I have had kind of the same experience. So around the same time that I started the YouTube channel, I started doing online workshops every month. And I've made a ton of friends and we get together on a monthly basis and we learn about songwriting and it's like just getting together with friends. Like you said, it's just great. And all of us are spread out all over the place. We're not usually in the same even community, but through technology, we still connect. You know, we have people in the UK, we have people in Australia. I'm sure you have the same thing where you have people just, it opens up the whole world to us.
Yeah, and different, I mean, we could talk about online friendships and like personal friendships. There's pros and cons to both. But the cool thing about on online community is it's just people that love the thing that you love. Like I,
Yep.
I have friends, coworkers in my office, I mean at the school, or I have like local friends where we have a lot in common and it's awesome hanging out. But I don't have hardly not, I mean, I can count 5 people locally that love Americana music, that like really get into it. And so it's just
Cool.
cool to just have this common thing. It's honestly, since I don't go to church anymore, it's been really healthy for me to have a community because I used to have that in church where it was like a
Sure.
group of people that love this one thing. Um, but now like to have that group of people just always encouraging you is, man, it's one of the best, that it's one of the best things that YouTube, it is the best thing that YouTube has ever done for me.
Awesome. Well, I am putting your link down in this description for this video, so
Cool, man.
that way people can find it and it links to your website and some of your music and stuff too. Um, well, I just appreciate you coming on this channel, and hopefully we can hang out again and talk some music and stuff like that as well. Because I think Americana, like I said, there's a lot of people out there writing it, and your channel is probably one place where they can find new music to listen to and new artists and things. So I just appreciate your time for coming on.
Dude, thank you so much, Chad. I almost laughed when your email said, I want to question you about what you think about songwriting. I was like, I think he has the wrong email, but it's been a pleasure, man. I see myself these days as like just writing songs for fun when I want to, and that's a
Yeah,
hell of a place to be, man. Like I really enjoy that. But it's been an honor to be here, man. Thanks so much for having me.
awesome. Thanks so much. Oh my gosh. So I'm so glad that Burt joined us here today. And again, check out his YouTube channel. The link is in the description. The link to his music and his website's down there as well. I enjoyed it. You'll enjoy his YouTube channel, and I just think it was a great conversation that hopefully makes you feel good about where you're at, especially if you're a new songwriter or if you're someone that's not really getting a lot of plays or if you're not really making money right now. It's not always about that. So hopefully this was helpful. And make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and make sure you check out my new online courses. I have a course about writing songs with questions that will help you become a stronger lyric writer. It's really focused on the process of using questions to write songs. So that link's in the description as well. So check it out.